You bought a fast SSD. The box promised a number most hard drives could never dream of. Then you tried copying a large file and watched it crawl like the drive forgot it was supposed to be fast. You probably blamed your drive, maybe even thought about returning it. Well, the truth is, your drive isn't broken. You were sold a number that was never built to survive real use, and a lot of people don't know about it. Here's what's actually going on inside that drive. Most SSDs today are built on a type of memory called TLC, or QLC NAND. The short version, manufacturers figured out that the more data you pack into each memory cell, the cheaper the drive gets to produce. That's the whole reason SSD prices dropped so fast over the last decade. But denser memory is inherently slower to write to. So, to hide that, manufacturers reserve a portion of the drive and make it operate in a faster, simpler mode. That section is called the SLC cache, and it's not a separate premium chip. It's just a slice of the same slow memory, temporarily running in a way that makes it much quicker. When you copy a file, the data gets absorbed by that fast section first, at the speed the box advertises. Then, while your computer is idle, the drive quietly moves everything into the slower storage underneath to free up that fast section for next time. As long as your transfers are short, it never runs out. And the drive feels fast every time. The problem is what happens when it does run out. The moment you write more data than that cache can hold, like installing a large game, backing up your PC, or moving a huge folder, the drive is forced to write incoming data directly to the slower memory, while simultaneously trying to empty the cache in the background. You will witness a sheer cliff drop in transfer speeds, often plummeting from gigabytes per second down to a couple of hundred megabytes per second. When cheap QLC drives exhaust their cache, they often drop to 80 to 100 megabytes per second. That isn't just slower than a SATA SSD, it is slower than a spinning mechanical hard drive. And the sequential speeds manufacturers advertise are almost always measured inside the SLC cache. They don't reflect what happens once that cache is exhausted. And this isn't just a PC problem. Your phone does the exact same thing. UFS storage, which is what almost every Android phone uses, runs the same trick under a different name. Write Booster. Same idea, same cache, same cliff. iPhones use their own version of it too. And here's something the spec sheet will never tell you. The size of this cache is frequently dynamic, meaning it shrinks as your drive fills up with permanent files. If your drive is hovering near maximum capacity, the available cache becomes incredibly small. So your drive gets slower the fuller it is. And it gets worse if you bought a smaller capacity drive. Lower capacity drives have fewer memory chips to spread writes across, which means they burn through their cache even faster. So that cheap 512 gigabyte drive you bought, it's often the worst performing version of that drive's entire lineup. Same brand, same name on the box, just less of everything underneath. To be fair, and this matters, a budget SSD should do just fine when you're booting your PC or launching apps, because those jobs don't last long enough to exhaust the cache, so you'll never feel the cliff. But if you're moving large game libraries, editing video, or doing big backups, or honestly anything that keeps your SSD running for long periods, that's when it starts to matter. And if you keep your drive nearly full, you're already there. So how do you avoid this? 3 things. First, look for reviews that test sustained write speeds, not just the benchmark blitz at the start. The useful tests are the ones where the drive is pushed past its cache window. Second, look for the SLC cache size at various fill levels. A drive might have 100 gigabytes of cache when empty, but only 10 gigabytes when 75% full. Third, look for a DRAM cache. The SLC cache holds your files, but the DRAM holds the map to find them. Drives without it borrow your PC's RAM, which is slower, causes stuttering, and burns out the drive faster. TLC over QLC, DRAM over no DRAM, and don't buy the smallest capacity version of any drive lineup. Those are the 3 rules that will actually matter when things get real. The speed on the box is real, it just wasn't built to last. If you enjoyed the ride, you might want to subscribe. We've got a lot more stories like this one coming down the line.